What would you do if you were floating 200 miles above Earth, completely alone, and something outside your spacecraft started knocking? That's not a hypothetical. In 2003, China's first astronaut experienced exactly that. He described it like someone knocking an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. He looked through every window. Nothing was there. Just the void. But here's what made my blood run cold. It happened again in 2005, and again in 2008. 3 missions, 3 crews, the same impossible knocking. Being an astronaut sounds like a dream. Floating weightless, watching sunrises every 90 minutes. The ultimate human achievement. That's the version they sell you. Here's what they leave out. Up there, there's no sound, no help, no escape. And when something goes wrong 200 miles above Earth, nobody can hear you. What you're about to hear are 4 documented cases. 4 incidents that were classified, buried, and scrubbed from official records. And I promise you, by the end, you won't look at the night sky the same way. Before we sent humans to space, we sent animals. You've heard that story. Laika, the brave Soviet dog who made history. Here's the story you haven't heard. November 3rd, 1957, Laika launches inside Sputnik 2. The mission was celebrated worldwide, a triumph of science. What they didn't tell anyone? There was never a plan to bring her back. The technology to return from orbit didn't exist yet. But that's not the disturbing part. We now have the telemetry data, declassified in 2002. During launch, Laika's heart rate tripled. 103 beats per minute shot to 240. The sensors showed extreme distress, panic, for hours. Soviet scientists told the world she calmed down and adapted. That was a lie. The thermal system failed within hours. The temperature inside that capsule climbed past 104 degrees Fahrenheit. The sensors didn't show her calming down. They showed them going silent, because there was nothing left to measure. For 5 months after, Sputnik 2 kept orbiting. 2,570 passes around Earth. Silent, dark. A sealed capsule circling above our heads while newspapers printed celebration headlines. The Soviet space program had one rule that was never written down but everyone understood. Publish the victories, erase the failures. For decades, the official record showed an almost perfect success rate. Gagarin, Tereshkova, Leonov, heroes, icons. But in 1959, a classified report surfaced in the West. It contained 3 names that didn't appear in any Soviet record: Ledovsky, Shaborin, Mitkov. According to the leaked files, all 3 launched between 1957 and 1959. All 3 were erased from history. Why? Because they never came back. Ledovsky's capsule never re-entered. It's believed to still be out there. Shaborin's tether allegedly snapped during a spacewalk. He drifted away from his vessel, slowly, watching it get smaller, until the black swallowed him whole. Mitkov's navigation system reportedly failed. His capsule fired in the wrong direction, away from Earth, into open space. Now, I have to be clear. These claims have never been verified. When Soviet archives opened after the Cold War, investigators found no evidence these missions happened. Some researchers believe it was Cold War propaganda. Others believe the Soviets were just that good at erasing their failures. But here's what we do know. The Soviets covered up real disasters for decades. The 1960 Nedelin catastrophe took around 160 lives and was hidden for 30 years. So the question remains, if they hid that, what else did they bury? And if those cosmonauts existed, they're still traveling. Right now, this second, moving further from Earth than any human has ever gone. I want you to try something. Close your eyes for 5 seconds and imagine this. You're inside a capsule the size of a closet. Through the small window, you see Earth fading away. Your oxygen gauge shows 5 hours left. The radio is dead, and you know with absolute certainty that no one is coming. You're going to drift forever in perfect silence. That might be the most terrifying fate I can imagine. Except for what comes next, because at least they went in silence. Turin, Italy, 1961. Two brothers, Achille and Giovanni Judica-Cordiglia, built a homemade listening station powerful enough to intercept Soviet transmissions. They had already captured Yuri Gagarin's voice during his historic flight. Their equipment was real. Their skills were legitimate. NASA even invited them to tour their facilities. But in May of 1961, they picked up something that still hasn't been explained. A frequency that wasn't supposed to be active. And on it, a woman's voice. I want you to listen to this. The transmission lasts nearly 3 minutes. You can hear her breathing change. You can hear the moment fear becomes something else. In 1961, officially, there was no woman in space. Valentina Tereshkova wouldn't fly for another 2 years. So who was she? The Soviets never acknowledged the transmission. They never named her. They never admitted she existed. Now, skeptics argue the recording could be a misinterpreted ground transmission. The woman's Russian contains some grammatical errors. She doesn't follow standard protocols. But believers point out that the brothers successfully recorded verified missions, that the Soviets had every reason to hide failures. I'll let you decide what you believe, but that voice is out there. A woman saying she could see flames, in a capsule that history says was never there. 3 stories. Animals sent up with no return. Cosmonauts possibly erased. A voice lost in the static. But none of that prepared me for the 4th case. October 15th, 2003. Shenzhou 5. China's first crewed space mission. Everything went according to plan, until the rest cycle. Yang Liwei was alone. The capsule was silent. That's when it started. In his own words, from an interview with Chinese national television, he described what he heard. It neither came from outside nor inside the spaceship, but sounded like someone knocking the body of the spaceship just as knocking an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. The knocks weren't random. They had a rhythm, a pattern, almost like someone was trying to get his attention. He moved to every window. Nothing was there. Just blackness, stars, the void. But the knocking continued. When he returned to Earth, scientists proposed thermal stress, metal expanding and contracting in extreme temperatures. Rational, right? Except thermal stress creates creaks, groans, pops. It doesn't knock in patterns. It doesn't sound like a fist. And here's what makes this case undeniable. Shenzhou 6, a completely different crew. They reported the exact same sound. Shenzhou 7, another crew, same phenomenon. 3 separate missions, years apart, the exact same impossible knocking. Yang Liwei even warned future astronauts to expect it. But expecting it doesn't explain it. 20 years of investigation, China's best engineers and scientists. No one can explain what has been knocking on those spacecraft, or what wants in. 4 stories. Animals that orbited in silence while the world celebrated. Cosmonauts who may have been erased from history. A woman's voice that exists on a recording that shouldn't. And a sound that 3 verified crews heard, that science still cannot explain. Why hide any of it? Why deny missions ever happened? Unless there isn't a rational explanation. Unless something about what happens up there, in the silence, in the void, doesn't fit the story they want us to believe. Maybe some questions don't have answers. Maybe some doors aren't meant to be opened. I'll see you in the dark.